It's time for Arizona Family Law Q&A. My name is Billie Tarascio, owner of Modern Law and Win Without Law School. The first question we've got here is, what is considered community property in an Arizona divorce? Great question. Community property is any property acquired during the marriage and any debt acquired during the marriage, unless it was gifted to you, it was inherited by you, or it was earned before the marriage and is then growing. So community property and separate property are not related to title. Title is, you might own a piece of property titled as joint tenants with the right of survivorship, and that is a title classification. Community property versus separate property is a Arizona law classification when it comes to division of assets in a divorce only, or who is responsible for debts in Arizona. So the other time community property comes up is if I go out and I buy a bunch of stuff and I don't pay it off, the debtor can come after my spouse under community property law. How long do I need to live in Arizona before I can file divorce here? The answer is 90 days. It takes 90 days to establish residency here in Arizona before you can file for divorce. That residency requirement does not extend to legal separations. So if you need to file sooner, then you can file for a legal separation and then convert it to a divorce. Can I get a divorce in Arizona even if my spouse does not agree? The answer is yes. You do not need consent to get a divorce. It is much easier if you have consent. If you can get an agreement on all issues, things are much easier. But even if your spouse is opposed, you can still get a divorce. Even if you have a covenant marriage, which very few people have here in Arizona, but some people do have a covenant marriage, and you can still get a divorce. You just have to go through the process. What are the basic steps in the Arizona divorce process? In Arizona, the first step to getting a divorce is to file a petition for dissolution. So it doesn't really matter who the petitioner is. It could be either the husband or wife. Either spouse can be the petitioner. After the petition is filed, it needs to be served. That can be done through a process server, through certified mail, or through the spouse accepting service and filling out a form called an acceptance of service. After that, there is 20 days for the other spouse to file a response to the petition. And then usually what happens after that is a non-evidentiary hearing called a resolution management conference. The resolution management conference is a time for the parties to meet with the judge and determine, what do we agree on? What issues can we lock down and take off the table? And what are the steps going to be moving forward for this divorce? Is it likely to settle? Are the parties going to attend mediation? Do they need some sort of third-party expert appointed, like a court-appointed advisor or guardian ad litem, to take a closer look at any custody issues? Are there any experts needed to value any particular property? And then what happens next? Usually the parties go to mediation, and discovery and disclosures need to be completed before a trial is set. Most of the time, people are able to agree on all issues eventually and don't need a trial, but sometimes cases do end up going to trial. And that is when a trial would be set, usually between 6 and 12 months after the filing of that initial divorce petition. You can get into a trial and then take whatever issues are not resolved to a judge. Once you have a trial, a judge has up to 60 days to issue a ruling on all outstanding issues. If you need help with the divorce in Arizona, contact us at Modern Law. How is child support calculated in Arizona? In Arizona, child support is calculated from a calculator that you can find online. The inputs into the child support calculator are mom's income, dad's income, or both parents' income. If you have a same-sex couple, both parents' income, the parenting time split, any costs to insure children for medical insurance, any extraordinary costs having to deal with special needs that may go into that calculator. Childcare costs can also go in, and then the child support calculator spits out a number. The fact is, in Arizona, both parties pay child support. There are obligations in this calculator for both parents, but then whoever obligation is more pays the difference to the other party. Even if you have equal parenting time, It does not mean that you won't have a child support obligation. If one person makes a lot more money than the other person, then they will still have a child support obligation. Now, if one party is not working, they will still be attributed income per the Arizona child support guidelines, and they will be attributed a minimum of 40 hours a week at minimum wage, but sometimes it's more. And there are times when no income is attributed, either because someone cannot work or they have very young children and they would be prohibited from working, like it would be cost prohibitive for them to work because what they would earn wouldn't pay for the cost of childcare. What is the difference between a legal separation and a divorce in Arizona? A legal separation does almost the same thing a divorce does. It divides the parties' property and debts. It relieves you of community property obligations moving forward. So any money you earn after you're legally separated is your own sole and separate property. Any debts you incur after you're legally separated is also your own debt, but you are not free to remarry. Your status as a single person is not there. So people might do this for religious reasons or for tax reasons. I believe you can still file jointly if you're legally separated. Are grandparents granted visitation rights in an Arizona divorce case? Great question. The answer is no. Grandparents are not granted visitation in an Arizona divorce case. Grandparents are not parties to a divorce. And for grandparents to seek visitation rights in the state of Arizona, they have to file their own petition to establish grandparent visitation if they qualify under the statute. And you qualify if the parents were never married, if the parents are currently not married, if one parent has deceased, and there are a few other ways that you can qualify. So you need to take a look at that and then definitely talk to an Arizona lawyer, because grandparents' rights are a different animal than a lot of the other family law cases that we usually talk about. So make sure you seek out someone like Modern Law, someone who specializes in family law, to get advice on your grandparents' rights case. What does sole custody versus joint custody mean in Arizona? Great question. In Arizona, we don't use the term custody. In 2013, the legislature changed the statutes so that we have two categories of rights: decision-making rights and parenting time rights. And we don't even use the term custody. When people are talking about custody, they may be talking about decision-making or parenting time. You can have sole legal decision-making, which means that you are the parent who gets to make all of the legal decisions. Legal decisions are limited to major decisions about where a child goes to school, their religious upbringing, their medical care and medical treatment, and any major personal care decisions. Or you can be the sole custodial parent if you are the parent who has all of the parenting time and the other parent does not have any parenting time or has very little parenting time. The statute used to determine whether or not sole or joint parenting time or decision making will be granted is ARS 25403, and that has all of the best interest factors. Those factors get applied to both the question of legal decision-making and of parenting time. How quickly can I remarry after my divorce is finalized in Arizona? The answer is immediately. As soon as you are restored to your status of a single person, you can get remarried. And you might be shocked to see how often and how quickly people can and do get remarried after a divorce. Divorce can sometimes take a really long time, or sometimes people don't even initiate divorce proceedings until they've decided they want to remarry. So it's not unusual for people to be remarried very quickly after they get divorced. One of the things that is most difficult for me as a divorce attorney is when I have a client who wants to get remarried and they've already set their wedding date and we're still trying to get them divorced. It usually is a factor that weighs against them in negotiation because they are highly motivated to be divorced. And so their other spouse can use that as leverage over them when coming to a deal.
Thank you for watching. If you have any questions about family law, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and we'll do our best to provide answers. If you're in Arizona and need legal help, don't hesitate to contact us at Modern Law. If you're looking to represent yourself, we have free resources available at Win Without Law School. You can also join our Modern Divorce Support Group on Facebook for community support. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.